If you've ever felt overwhelmed by wellness advice, this episode is for you. If you've ever bought a supplement because someone on TikTok swore it changed their life and then wondered why nothing happened, this episode is also for you. And if you've been hearing the word peptides everywhere and thinking, is this legit or is this just the next wellness trend? I get it, 100%. Today, we're talking about peptides versus supplements. Not to tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing, and definitely not to sell you on anything. We're talking about how to choose tools, not trends, because your body doesn't need hype, it needs clarity. Before we jump in today, I want to take a moment to ground this conversation, especially if this is your first time here. Welcome to Talk Peppy to Me. I'm Jess, and if you're new, I want to be really clear about who I am and who I'm not. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not here to diagnose you, treat you, or tell you what you should or should not be doing with your body. What I am is a functional medicine trained health coach in progress, a longevity educator, and someone who has spent years deep in the world of metabolic health, peptides, supplements, and lifestyle-based healing on my own health journey. I'm here to help translate complicated health conversations into something you can actually understand and make empowered decisions around. Everything we talk about on this podcast is for educational purposes only. Nothing you hear today should be considered medical advice. Always consult with your personal healthcare provider before starting or changing supplements, medications, or peptide protocols. Now, with that being said, I want you to know something. This is a shame-free space. We're not here to chase trends, copy protocols from the internet, or pressure ourselves into doing more. We are here to understand our bodies better. Because one of the biggest problems in wellness right now isn't lack of effort, it's lack of clarity. There's a lot of noise out there. Supplements, peptides, stacks, hacks, biohacks, all promising results. And it's easy to feel that if you're not doing everything, you're doing something wrong. You're not. Today's conversation about peptides versus supplements isn't about which one is better. It's about learning how to choose tools, not trends. So wherever you're listening from, whether you're walking, driving, folding laundry, or just taking a quiet moment for yourself, I'm glad you're here. Take a breath with me and let's talk peppy.
Living out loud, learning in real time, sharing the truths I needed to find. If you're ready to turn the story into something steady, let's talk peppy.
Okay, let's really talk about it because supplements and peptides are being talked about in the same breath right now, and that's part of the confusion. They're often discussed like they do the same thing. They don't. But before we can even get into how they're different, we need to talk about how we ended up here. We are living in a time where wellness information is faster than ever and context is slower than ever. You can scroll for 5 minutes and hear 5 different answers to the same question. Take this, don't take that. Natural is better. Synthetic is bad. Supplements are useless. Peptides are magic. And when information comes at you like that, your nervous system doesn't feel empowered. It feels overwhelmed. So instead of making intentional decisions, people start reacting. Buying what worked for someone else, stacking things without understanding interactions, assuming that if something is popular, it must be right. That's not a personal failure. That's what happens when education is replaced by algorithms. Here's what I want to ground us in. Your body does not respond to trends. It responds to biology. And biology is slower, more nuanced, and more individualized than social media would ever make it seem. So when we talk about supplements and peptides, we have to zoom out and ask a bigger question. What job are we actually asking this thing to do? Because supplements and peptides are tools, not identities, not lifestyle, not moral choices, and tools only work when they're used for the right purpose. Supplements are designed to support existing pathways. They provide raw materials, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, compounds that your body then has to absorb, convert, and use. That means supplements depend heavily on digestion, gut health, liver function, and metabolic efficiency. If those systems are compromised, the supplement itself may not be the problem. The delivery system is. And this is where people get frustrated. They take supplements consistently, spend the money, do everything right, and still don't feel better. That doesn't mean supplements don't work. It means they may not be the right level of intervention for what's happening. Peptides enter the conversation when the issue isn't a lack of raw materials, but a breakdown in communication. Peptides don't primarily supply nutrients. They send signals. They tell your body what to do, when to heal, when to repair, when to regulate. And when you hear that, it can sound intimidating, or it can sound like the answer to everything. Neither is true. Peptides aren't a shortcut around lifestyle, and supplements aren't weak or outdated. They're just operating at different layers of physiology. This is why comparing peptides to supplements as better or worse misses the point. It's like comparing blueprint to bricks. You need both, but not always at the same time and not in the same quantities. The real problem happens when people jump to peptides because they're frustrated without understanding what's actually not working. Or when people stay stuck in supplement overload because they're afraid to explore deeper support. Both are rooted in the same issue, a lack of guidance. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I've tried supplements and they didn't work for me, or I'm curious about peptides but nervous, both of those feelings make sense. And this episode isn't about pushing you in either direction. It's about giving you the framework to decide. Because longevity isn't about doing more. It's about doing what's appropriate for your body at this point in time. And once you understand the role each tool plays, the noise gets quieter. The shame drops away, and the conversation shifts from what should I take to what does my body actually need right now? That's the shift we're making today. And from here, we can finally talk about this functionally. All right, now that we've slowed the conversation down, let's take the functional view. Because functional medicine doesn't ask what's trending, it asks how does the body actually work? And when we look at supplements and peptides through that lens, the differences become very clear. In functional medicine, we think in terms of inputs, signals, and responses. Supplements are inputs, peptides are signals, and your body's response depends on how well those systems are communicating. Let's start with supplements. When you take a supplement, you're giving your body raw materials. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, plant compounds, things your body either can't make on its own or needs more of. But those raw materials don't automatically become results. They have to be digested, absorbed, converted, transported, or utilized. That means supplements rely on a lot of systems working properly. Your gut has to break them down. Your liver has to process them. Your cells have to recognize and use them. And if any of those steps are compromised, gut inflammation, low stomach acid, sluggish detox pathways, or insulin resistance, the supplement may never fully do its job. This is why two people can take the same supplement and have completely different experiences. One person can feel amazing. The other person feels nothing. That doesn't mean the supplement worked for one and failed for the other. It means their internal environments were different. Now let's talk about peptides. Peptides don't primarily supply raw materials. They supply instructions. They act like messengers, telling your body what to prioritize. Repair this tissue, increase this signal, modulate this response. In functional terms, Peptides work higher up in the decision-making chain. They don't wait for your body to figure out what to do with the materials. They guide the process. This is why peptides are often used when the issue isn't deficiency, but dysfunction. When something isn't responding, when the signal has gotten weak or distorted or ignored. And this is also why peptides can feel more noticeable, not because they're stronger in a good or bad way, but because they're more targeted. Now, here's the key functional distinction I want you to hear. Supplements support capacity, peptides influence direction. What does that mean? Capacity is about having enough resources. Direction is about telling those resources where to go. You can have all the capacity in the world, nutrients, calories, supplements, but if the signal is off, the outcome won't change. On the flip side, you can send the right signal, but without foundational support, the response may be limited. This is why functional medicine doesn't see peptides and supplements as either or. We see them as layered tools. Supplements often build the foundation. Peptides often fine-tune the response, and timing matters. If someone jumps straight to peptides without supporting digestion or protein intake or sleep or blood sugar, they might not get the results they expect. And if someone stays stuck in endless supplement stacking when their body needs clearer signaling, they can stay frustrated for years. Neither approach is wrong. They're just incomplete on their own. This is also where personalization becomes critical. Functional medicine never asks, what should everyone take? It asks, what does this person need right now based on their physiology? That's why labs, symptoms, history, and lifestyle matter more than protocols copied from the internet. And this is why peptides require more intention. Because when you influence signaling, you want to be very clear about the message you're sending. This isn't about doing more, it's about being precise. So functionally speaking, the goal isn't to choose between supplements or peptides. The goal is to understand which layer of support your body is asking for. Once you understand that, the decision becomes calmer, cleaner, and much more effective. Okay. Reality check time, and some of you are not going to like this very much, so brace yourself. Because I love this conversation, but I also want to protect you from the part of wellness that gets reckless, here's the truth. Not everything that's popular is safe, appropriate, or even real. And both supplements and peptides can become a mess when they are used like trends. Let's start with supplements. People assume supplements are automatically safe because they're easy to buy, but easy to buy is not the same as safe for your body. First, supplements can interact with medications. They can impact blood pressure, blood sugar, mood medication, sleep meds, and people don't talk about this enough. Second, dosing matters. More is not better. More can be irritating. More can be inflammatory. More can disrupt balance. And third, quality matters. Some supplements are underdosed, contaminated, or not what the label says. So if you're taking something and feeling weird or not feeling anything, it might not be you, it might be the product itself. Now, peptides. Peptides are not a cute little wellness trend, and they shouldn't be treated as such. They are biologically active signaling compounds, and the internet has turned them into quick fixes, which is exactly how people get hurt. Here's what I want you to understand. Peptides are about messaging, and if you send a message your body doesn't need, or you send it at the wrong time, or you send too much of it, you can get consequences. That could look like side effects. That could look like your nervous system feeling off. That could look like digestive changes, sleep changes, mood changes, appetite changes, depending on what you're using. And sometimes the issue isn't even the peptide. Sometimes the issue is the context, because a lot of people try to biohack their way around basic foundations. If you are chronically under-eating, under-sleeping, overstressed, and inflamed, your body is not in a state of repair. So throwing powerful tools into a body that's already screaming is not optimization. It's pressure. Another big reality check. Sourcing matters. Not all peptides are created equal, and not every peptide you see online is legitimate. There are products out there being sold as research-grade, experimental, or not for human use, and some people are buying them because they're cheaper or easier. I'm going to be really direct. That is not the responsible route. If you're going to work with peptides, you should do it with medical guidance and reputable sourcing, because you're not just buying a product, you're influencing your physiology, and that deserves respect. Now, here's the biggest trap I see with both supplements and peptides. People don't have a goal. They have a vibe. They want energy. They want to feel better. They want to balance hormones. And listen, I get it, but functionally, that's not specific enough. If you don't know what you're aiming at, you can't choose the right tool, and you definitely can't measure whether it worked. So here's what responsible use actually looks like. You have a clear reason. You have a clear plan. You're tracking responses: sleep, digestion, mood, appetite, energy, strength. You're not stacking 10 new things at once, and you're not changing your protocol every week. You're also not outsourcing your intuition to the internet, because the goal isn't to take more things. The goal is to support your body so it can do what it was designed to do. So if you take one thing from this reality check, let it be this. It's not about what's trending. It's about what's appropriate. And the most biohacked thing you can do is choose the tools with intention, not impulse. Okay, we've gotten through the reality check. Let's get into the pep talk. Take a breath with me for a second, if you will. If parts of this episode felt validating and parts of it felt confronting, that's actually a good sign, because growth in health doesn't come from being told you're doing everything right. It comes from being given clarity. And I want to say this clearly. You are not behind. You are not late to the conversation, and you are definitely not broken. Most of us were never taught how to think about our bodies functionally. We were taught symptoms, quick fixes, and willpower. So when something doesn't work, we blame ourselves. But your body isn't failing you, it's communicating. And learning how to listen is a skill, not a flaw. If supplements haven't worked for you the way that you hoped, that doesn't mean you wasted time. It means your body gave you information. If you're curious about peptides but hesitant, that doesn't mean you're scared. It means you're thoughtful. Longevity isn't about jumping to the next thing. It's about building a relationship with your body that's based on trust. Trust that you can move slowly. Trust that you can ask questions. Trust that you don't have to earn support by suffering first. You don't need to optimize everything. You don't need to understand everything today, and you don't need to take everything that works for someone else. Progress and health is often quieter than the internet makes it look. It's fewer things done consistently. It's choosing rest when you used to choose pressure. It's choosing curiosity over comparison. And here's the most important part: choosing support, whether that's supplements, peptides, lifestyle changes, or guidance. That's not a weakness. It's self-respect. And choosing less with more intention is still choosing growth. So if today's episode helped you feel calmer, clearer, or more confident in how you approach your health, that matters. Because longevity isn't about perfection. It's about staying in the conversation with your body instead of fighting it. And you're doing that right now. All right, before we wrap up, let's do a recap and keep us grounded. Everything we talked about today is for educational purposes only. This podcast is here to help you understand your body better, not to replace medical care. Always talk with your healthcare provider before starting or changing supplements, peptides, or medications. And of course, if this episode helped you feel clearer about how supplements and peptides actually fit into the big picture, that is the win. You don't need to take action immediately. You don't need to buy anything today. Sometimes the most powerful next step is simply understanding what questions to ask. If you do want to explore responsibly, I've linked educational resources in the show notes, all meant to support learning, not pressure. And if this episode helped you slow down, stop second guessing yourself, or feel less overwhelmed by wellness noise, I'm really glad you're here, because this space isn't about doing the most. It's about doing what makes sense for you. Next week, we are continuing this conversation. We're talking about GLP-1s beyond weight loss. We'll break down what GLP-1s actually do in the body, why they're being studied for metabolic health and inflammation and brain health and longevity, and why weight loss is only one small part of the story. We'll also talk about who these tools may support, who they're not for, and how to think about them responsibly without shame and without hype. So make sure you're subscribed and come back next week. And remember, it always helps to talk peppy.